Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Uh, Give me a minute and we'll start things off with this instrumental here. All right. All right. Hopefully, y'all are having a good Sunday afternoon and morning for some, afternoon for others. But today, we'll be going into the book of Genesis to show how there is science in the book, and how the poetry of the text is written to show the biological science of men, women, and nature. So, to show this, we'll be studying Genesis chapter 2, verses 5, 8, 15, 18 through 22. And then we'll be moving on finally to Genesis chapter 3, um, and going into verses 16 through 19. Um, but to start off, we'll be starting off with Genesis chapter 2, verse 5. Give everyone time to get there. But uh, peace to everyone. Checking for you, Black Curl, Cindy Jones. Greetings to you, gentlemen, for being here. Those who are watching, please like if you upon coming into the chat. All right. Starting off with verse 5. No shrub or plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no herb of the field had yet sprouted. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the earth, and there was no man to work or cultivate the ground. And the Lord God had planted a garden, a oasis in the east, in Eden, meaning the light land of happiness. And he put the man whom he had formed or created there. So the Lord God took the man he had made and settled him in the garden of Eden to cultivate and keep it. Now the Lord God said, it is not good, beneficial for the man to be alone. I will make him a helper, one who balances him, a counterpart who is. Um, right here, it is important for me to point out that this essentially means the man's opposite, meaning everything that he is not. So this is an opposing force already. Because you can't have balance with like forces, they would automatically be scaled to one side of the power structure. And just to go through, I'm now on verse 18. Sorry about that. I'm now on verse 18. Continuing, I will make him a helper, one who balances him, and a counterpart who is suitable and complementary for him. Um, verse 19. Hopefully everyone's keeping up. What's good, Swift? Um, verse 19. So the Lord God formed out of the ground every animal of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever he called the living creature, that was its name. Also, here to stop for a moment. People who are ignorant of what they're reading like to say there's no science in the Bible. But this passage here proves otherwise, as do many others. What scientists do is observe creatures and objects and name them according to their significant traits. That in itself is a part of science. Moving on to verse 20. And the man gave names to all the livestock, to the birds of the air, and to every animal of the field. But for Adam, there was not found a helper that was suitable, a companion for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam while he slept. He took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh at that place. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from the man he had made, fashioned a form into a woman, and he brought her and presented her to the man. Right here, I need to point out how you will have people willing to misuse this passage to condition you into needing a broad, a female, a woman. But at that time, Adam was alone. There were no other humans with him in the Garden of Eden at that time. But humans today have plenty of other humans as well as other meaningful activities to pass the time. Adam didn't have books to read or nigga shit on YouTube to observe. So you can let them trick you into that if you want, but it ain't happening here. So it's always, you always want to be mindful of that. People use this book as a weapon to manipulate you all the time. So you have to be on guard for that. Moving on to Genesis chapter 3, verses 16 through 19. Give everyone a little time to go there. All right. Yeah, exactly. Black girls already see the pastor using those verses to tell men they absolutely need women. Yeah, they do it all the time. Yeah, exactly. Even though another verse tells you to avoid treacherous women. Exactly. Yeah, they do it all the time. So starting with verse 16, it says here, to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain, you'll give birth to children, yet your desire and longing will be for your husband, and he will rule with authority over you. and be responsible for you. Now, it's important for me to point out here that as someone who has pointed out before that because of the law that was passed in the 40s, as a man, you no longer have property rights over a woman. So because you can't legally rule with authority or be responsible for her, you can't be responsible for her biblically either. so, so going along with what Black Curls is saying there, about the pastor manipulating those verses to tell men that they absolutely need women. Um, you have to understand here also that because of that law that was passed in the 40s, even though it says he will rule with authority over you and be responsible for you, legally, you can't be responsible for her or even rule over her because of the laws. But as Curls pointed out, as Curls pointed out, hold on, let's highlight. Even though another verse tells you to avoid treacherous women, yes, it tells you that to go to the corner on the roof of a home is much better than dealing with a contentious woman. So yes, exactly. Yes, Sigma Jones. Enslavement through indoctrination. People who don't seek the truth on their own are doomed to enslavement. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Moving forward to 17. Then to Adam, the Lord God said, because you have listened attentively to the voice of your wife and have eaten fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. The ground is now under a curse because of you. In sorrow and in toil you shall eat the fruit of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles it shall grow for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread until you return to the ground. For from it you are taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Now, these passages here are to teach you that as a man, you shouldn't be attentively listening to anything that the women tell you. As someone who frequents these parts says, because they are the help, you as a man are biologically gifted to rule and guide with authority. Because women represent nature, which is wild and chaotic in itself. And men are gifted with being able to overcome nature, to provide law and structure to guide nature to its most productive form. As an individual who is gifted to work a garden, weeds and unnecessary objects that interrupt the structured growth that men are to provide must be removed. But as we see, there are a few men that are disciplined enough to overcome nature to provide structure. So it goes to prove that all aren't created equal. But yes, and also it's to point out here within the poetry of it, with him saying, the ground is now cursed, and in sorrow and toil you shall eat the fruit of it all the days of your life. Both thorns and thistles shall grow for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you will eat bread until you return to the ground. The poetry here, in talking about the work and the effort that's put in to toiling into the ground, and him having to do so to be able to eat the fruit of it. The fruit is what's produced. When he talks about by the sweat of your face you will eat bread. So growing the wheat in a more, what's the word I'm looking for? In a more physical, literal sense, is a part of being able to get grain to make bread. But for another purpose, it's also tied directly to you as a man working, being able to feel achievement from what you have already done. That is the fruit there. That appreciation for something that you have created through your hard work. That's also what it means here. It's talking about both from a physical sense and then from an emotional and spiritual sense, or of actually working to achieve something and you being able to appreciate it because you've earned it. It means all of that, not just one thing, but it means all of that. So it's very important to note here how the men represent nature. No, they don't. How the women represent nature and the men represent law and structure and order. And that structure, law, and order is needed to cultivate something more fruitful, something more significant, something better. Peace to you as well, Dorian. I guess helmet dudes were reminded about that. That's the point. They wanted to be helmet dudes, so no, they wouldn't be reminded about that. But yes, yeah. But Marco said it here all the time. Uh, you shouldn't be listening to these women. You should be listening to the women. Uh, the only time you should be thinking about them is whenever you need to. Only time, like he says, the only time he thinks about toilet paper, of course, is when you need to buy it or when you actually need to take a dump. Afterwards. That's the only time you should be thinking about it. Um, Everything else you should be thinking about their structure needed towards your purpose, towards what you're doing, the work that you have to do to cultivate good fruit. But that's all I got at this time. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. I'm gonna close this down and open up the barbershop talk. So hopefully we'll have some panel participants come up and we can have a discussion about it. But as always, peace, gentlemen. Like, share, subscribe. I've already lost a few subscribers, but I ain't worried about that. No helmet niggas anyway. So I'm good on that. Peace to y'all.